Massive trade incoming. A major report on Spurs draft night plans has been highlighted, and we are going to discuss everything that has been highlighted here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment by hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss all the great content that me, Josh, and Brian have coming for you. And it's going to be plentiful because the NBA draft is soon upon us and the Spurs are going to be making splashes. Whether it's going to be with the number 2 overall pick or it's going to be with blockbuster trades, we're going to talk about here right now. NBA teams reportedly expect Spurs to entertain trade offers. This is also coming off of the previously reported that the Spurs were not pursuing any trades involving the pick. But let's get back into it. Spurs own the number 2 pick in the 2025 NBA draft, and the team is reportedly open to trading the selection. Here was what was written in the latest mock draft that came out from Jeremy Woo. Though trade speculation has swirled around the San Antonio Spurs and this pick since lottery night, at this stage of the process, it appears to be simply that. Obviously, just speculation in terms of the Spurs want to get Wemby to the playoffs. That's the one thing that has been consistent throughout this whole thing. Victor Wembanyama in the playoffs because he's already a top 10 level player in the association. Let's get him there, get him as many chances to get us a championship and get himself championship as possible. But they don't want to rush into a blockbuster deal, which of course you don't want to mortgage all of the future just for the present. But if you get the right deal, you get the right prospect, whether it be for Giannis or someone else should come available, a different star. Obviously, we've heard rumors of Kevin Durant, we've heard Lauri Markkanen, we've heard plenty of people. There's now going to be some different Cavaliers stuff coming out. There's going to be some Celtics stuff coming out. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be swirling in these trade rumors here with the San Antonio Spurs because we've got the picks, the money, the assets, and we've got everything because we are literally the most intriguing destination this offseason. But the San Antonio Spurs have future draft capital to keep Harper and significantly upgrade its roster at a lesser cost. Rival teams expect the Spurs will entertain their options, but wide assumption is that Harper will be the pick, barring a blockbuster move. And we have all the capabilities of a blockbuster move. Other teams are suspecting that the Spurs are going to fast-track this Wemby process. Why? Maybe because they don't know the organization of the San Antonio Spurs. Maybe they don't understand that the slow moving up to the top is how typically we do things, but at the same time, we don't always make big trades. We made the big trade for De'Aaron Fox, and we've been interested in Giannis. We've talked about being interested, and we'll see if we continue to do that. But per Woo, the early signs indicate that the San Antonio Spurs are very comfortable with adding Harper to a young core that features Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle. They don't write it there, but De'Aaron Fox and others, because the really thought is, how is Castle, Fox, and Harper going to work in the backcourt? I talked about it in a video. Harper is shooting very much fine from the three-point line. Like, he's shooting about 43% on spot-ups. He can work off the basket. He does very well as a cutter, so he can work off ball. Fox can work off ball as he has with Sabonis, and then Stephon Castle can work off ball because he was this year. We saw it this year. So it's going to work basketball fine if and when he gets picked, but that's not the only option, and the Spurs would be naive to have this be their only option. We know that, but the Spurs know it more than that because the Spurs are a high-class, high-intelligent organization. But while the Spurs may not be actively looking to move out of the number 2 spot, they appear to be more willing to listen to offers than initially seemed to be. And as I had showed previously, that the report had came out that the San Antonio Spurs were not pursuing trades involving this pick. They were just solidified at that number 2 pick. But still, the Spurs have shown they're willing to make moves for experienced contributors who fit alongside Wemby. They acquired Fox from the Kings in a 3-team deal prior to the February 6th trade deadline. I mean, that was a heist. And if we're able to get a deal where we could get Giannis, or we could get KD, or we could get Lauri, or we could get whomever we're able to get, whether it is a big piece or a small piece, and whether it does involve trading the number 2 pick, which would have to be for a big piece, or if it's just a smaller piece, the Spurs are going to be active this offseason, not just in the draft. There's too many pieces in free agency, a Bobby Portis, a Brook Lopez, those kind of players who can come in and be an instant impact off the bench. For Luke Kornet's another one that Josh really likes, a guy who could be on a cheap deal, who could come in there, who showcase what he could do in a Game 5 of the NBA playoffs, what he could do as a backup. There are options where you could trade for the mid-level guys on some of these teams. Maybe you could get a guy back like Derek White. You could get a guy like Drew Holiday. You could get some of these other guys off teams that are expiring deals where the second apron is going to push them away. Or you can go big game hunting and go for that top spot, go for those top players. There's every single option is open. Or you could stay exactly where you are. Draft Dylan Harper. But you're probably going to have to make some move to move off of Vassell unless Vassell's fine coming off the bench, or Harper's going to be fine coming off the bench to start. But at some point, Vassell's got to be the odd man out, and that's okay. That is perfectly fine. But in this latest mock draft, the Spurs were projected to stand pat at number 2 and select Harper. The Spurs do not seem actively attempting to move down in the draft order, but the team is still reportedly willing to listen to proposals for other front offices throughout the pre-draft process, because you've got to be open to listening to everything. You are a bad organization if you're not willing to listen to all offers, opportunities, and deals. And that's what the Spurs are going to do. They're going to listen. Maybe if someone's like, man, we'll give you X and this is a very just off the top of the head kind of thing. If the Hornets were like, hey, we'll give you Miles Bridges and this pick and then this and then that, maybe you're like, okay, let me just at least listen to it. I don't want that at all, so don't even take that as something that we're going to do. But like, if teams below you are going to offer you certain pieces plus that pick, maybe you entertain it and listen, because maybe you don't get Dylan Harper, but you can get a guy like Trey Johnson, you can get a guy like Ace Bailey, you could get a guy like Derek Queen, depending on where you are in the draft and who wants to trade with you. There's so many options. And then also, don't forget, I believe Brian just spoke on this too, we've got the 14th pick where we can take Noah from France, where we could go take Carter Bryant, where we can go maybe take Rasheed Fleming, or we can go take one of these wings, or maybe get a guy like Liam McNeely. Like, there's just so many options for the San Antonio Spurs in this year's draft. You got the number 2 pick, and you can move off of it. We're in the position where we don't have to do anything crazy. We do what we want. Other teams are going to ask us. We just do what we feel. And when that happens, teams typically tend to get desperate. And when teams get desperate and they don't have the options, that's when they make mistakes. And that's when this great organization is going to capitalize. But let me know in the comments whether you want to keep Dylan Harper. Let me know if there's any piece on the team that you do want to trade, or if there is one, let me know what it'd be and what it'd be for. But this has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll be seeing all of you guys very soon.